Hey, what's going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video on Marvel Strike Force. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a top 10. And these are the best teams that you could possibly use in Marvel Strike Force. And I am not even joking, because now that I've gone through my boosted account and that account's almost level 80, I can firmly say that the teams in this list are not only the only teams that you need for new and mid-game players, but the ones that I use actually quite frequently on my main account. There are some in here that serve other purposes as well, and I will be upfront that I'm not going to be including Horseman teams in here for Apocalypse, because otherwise half of the teams would be full of those. So obviously we know that what's required to get Apocalypse, and I'm not going to be including that in this list. But for everything else, I'll be talking about why and who they are. That's what I meant to say. Anyways, if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. All right, and coming in at number 10, and I know what you're all going to say, that this is unfair. I'm getting a little bit ahead of this one, and that is Spider Society. But let me tell you why I think even Ghost Spider and Spider-Man Noir are going to be really good right now. So I'm actually using Ghost Spider on my boosted account because now she is also dual traded of both bio and skill. And so what I'm doing right now in my boosted account for skill raids, because some of these characters are so overpowered now, I'm using characters like Ghost Spider, like Kestrel, like Black Knight, and just overpowering early skill raids. And I kid you not that actually I can just trio most of Doom 1 right now on my boosted account at a really low level. Spider-Man Noir is actually a really cheap build also if you want to consider for City, for Dark Dimension City going forward, whether that's 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 as well, maybe 8 in the future, you know. And so I'm just getting ahead of this because we're eventually going to need them anyways. It's going to be about a month before we actually have them, but I don't know if I'll be doing another video in that time. So they're absolutely, raids are super important. They're some of the most important teams in the game. They may not be as good as some of the other raid teams on this list, so that's why they're at number 10. But I do want to get ahead of this anyways, and they're not released, so that's why they're also 10. So Spider Society coming in first. All right, and coming in at number 9, and I know some people are going to have some gripes with this one, but it is the Eternals. And yes, they are not a full team. They are a duo, and they're still incredibly strong. You know, people are going to fight me tooth and nail on this one, but I do firmly believe that the Eternals still have a place in everybody's roster. I am using them on my boosted account for early Mystic raids right now, mainly because I'm using a hodgepodge of other characters alongside of the Eternals, because I don't want to build Bifrost in full, because I know they're on the way out the door after Spider Society. So I'll just say right now that Bifrost is not on this list, because I don't want to encourage people to build teams that are going to be basically replaced in a couple of months' time. I see them probably being replaced in no more than 3 or 4 months maximum. So I don't want people to build them to the moon and think that it's okay. That being said, these guys are like Swiss Army knives. Like, you can use them in a lot of places, in a lot of game modes, even in Arena, you know, for a good while until you start getting some of those heftier characters. You can use them in raids, like I just said, for early Mystic Origin raids. And then you can also use them in Cosmic Crucible and Alliance War. So they're really an all-arounder great duo. And you can just combine them with other great characters as well. So being that there are only 2 of them, it's not super difficult to build, and it's not really a huge ask. I'm going to be, once I actually get around to leveling characters more past 95, I'll probably finish taking them to 100. And I am still going to continue to gear up Icarus. Maybe it's just something that I believe that they're going to come back around again even more with another character, with another Eternals maybe. Who knows? We'll find out. But anyways, that's the Eternals at number 9. And coming in at number 8. Now, I originally wanted to do Tangled Web. However, Spider-Man Noir was already mentioned in Spider Society. So I've decided to go with MSF Originals, and I'm using this tag that they used from the anniversary. And the reason for this is because it encompasses a couple of characters that I think are really important to build, even if I don't think that you need to still build their team in full. Namely Vol, who is part of the Bifrost team. I already mentioned that I just don't think that at this point in time, if you haven't built them, you should go ahead and do that. I don't think you really need the other characters on that list for anything, really. That I can think of. But Vol, nonetheless, is an insane character. Again, someone that I'm using on... It's funny, we still have the bobbleheads going. But anyways, a character that I'm using for Mystic raids on my boosted account and other places like Dark Dimension Cosmic and things like that. Vol's going to continue to be a mainstay, I think, in your roster. And I think because of what we saw with Kestrel being reworked for Pegasus, I have this strange feeling that Deathpool, I don't know if Deathpool is getting reworked for Mercs for Money coming up, but I think that characters like Deathpool or Vol are going to see other teams down the line. Spider Weaver, I kind of wanted to also add 2099 in here. That's why Tangled Web was actually going to be on this list, but I decided to do this instead. 2099 is not a necessity anymore, though 2099 is an enabler for Spider Weaver for turn bar purposes, for the ultimate, so that they're a really strong duo together. Deathpool is a character that you're going to need for Apocalypse, but also someone that kind of enables Doom Raid Mystics and other Mystic Raid teams if you're not using the full Bifrost team, and a character that you need to bring up anyways. So these four, Kestrel's going to show up again anyways, but these three anyways, plus Kestrel, are really important to your roster. So make sure you build them. And coming in, I guess at number 6. Now, this one I kind of wish I did in a different order, actually. Kind of wish these were down at like 9. So this is in no particular order, actually. So I'm just going to put this out here. The reason why New Avengers is on this list is because you need them to unlock Green Goblin Classic. No ifs, ands, or buts. And Green Goblin Classic is super important as a legendary character and for the team that he represents, who is going to be further up on this list. New Avengers are also a really solid team all around, especially for earlier and mid-game players. I'm in the process of building them up right now this week to use for the Green Goblin Classic trials for my boosted account, and they're much better than using characters like Rebirth. You don't need to take them as high as this anymore, but you will need to take them to about, I would say, about G15, maybe Tiger to G16 if you want to get a 7-star Green Goblin Classic. I do have videos on my YouTube channel, actually, if you're interested in that. But this is the best team to accomplish that. And while they're not as important as the other ones on this list, Green Goblin Classic, in my opinion, is one of the most important legendary characters. So unfortunately, that does make this team really important. So, New Avengers. All right, and coming in at number 5, and I will admit wholeheartedly that I really just wanted to make number 5 all about Black Knight. Because we know that he's one of the most absurd OP characters in the game, and he could honestly be a team in himself, right? Like, he's just so powerful. I don't think any of us can disagree how powerful Black Knight actually is. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to use the out of time roster in the team. But I will say that Starbrand and Cosmic Ghost Rider are less important. If you're a new and mid-game player, they're even less important. However, they are going to be for a legendary unlock, which we presume is for Mercs for Money, but they haven't officially said. So I don't know. Whatever the next legendary character is, which is very, very soon, you're going to need this full team. Now, as far as that event goes, I honestly wouldn't be able to be surprised if you could just use the 3 of these, and then Black Knight just goes around yeeting everyone with his retaliation. So as long as you're upgrading these 3 characters, I think you'll probably be fine. And maybe having these 2 characters at like G14. So if you're not really huge into Alliance War, at least do that anyways, but make sure that you're paying attention to the other 3, and you'll be able to do a lot, especially with Black Knight, because he just rolls over everything. All right, that's out of time. Okay, so I think that I got my numbers mixed up. I'm pretty sure when we're out of time, I said we were at number 5. We're on number 5 now with Secret Defenders. Okay, so I record late at night, so my apologies if I get kind of confused on my own stuff. But this is Secret Defenders, and they're coming in at the real number 5. And the reason why they're on this list is because they are the best arena team outside of Doctor Strange. I don't think he's really that important, but the 4 of them make up the best arena team as it sits right now. Now, I know that they are not the top of the meta arena as it sits. They're still very much used in a lot of places, but arena teams tend to last for a very long time. Darkhold held up for a fair while. Infinity Watch held up for a really long while. And so this team is as well. Now, where else you're going to use them outside of arena, though? You'll probably see them more in like mid and like lower in-game arenas. But outside of that, you're still going to see them everywhere in Alliance War and Cosmic Crucible. They're still really strong characters. Although I would say it's primarily these 3 characters here, Black Cat, Miss Marvel, and Ghost Rider Robbie. Still very much worth your investment. If I did this again, I probably wouldn't put as much resources into Photon personally. But maybe some people would still bring her up to like G16 just to use in the team. But usually she gets kicked out for other hybridizations of this team, especially in Cosmic Crucible. So take that with a grain of salt. But these three are definitely still safe to build. So Secret Defenders, still very much worth your time. Very good characters. Make sure you build them. And coming in at number 4 is going to be Pegasus. So yes, Pegasus is still your top tech raid team. They also serve a lot of other uses. Not only is Kestrel super amazing in Dark Dimension, whatever version that you're going through, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably. She's also a mythic character that you're going to need to have for Dark Dimension 7 for that mythic lane. But like I said, this is still the top tech raid team. Also, the Green Goblin Classic Trials, which I mentioned for New Avengers, there is a whole section dedicated to tech characters. And this is the easiest synergistic team, I hope that's a word, that you can use for that section. There's also lots of other places that you can still use them. There is going to be a raid room in Cosmic Crucible where I think a lot of people can still make some solid use out of Pegasus. Unlike Bifrost, these characters still make the list, and I think they're actually really strong. Just in general, as a team being built, I think they're a lot better than Bifrost, both in and outside of raids. So Pegasus is still very much needed, and they're in the number 4 slot. Coming in at number 3, probably to no surprise, is where I start whipping out all of the more recent teams, and that is going to be Hivemind. Yes, I realize that these characters are not farmable. This is not a farmable team list. This is a very important team because it's another raid team, which I value highly. Raid teams are some of my most highly valued teams because they're teams that you need to use every day. However, due to the ranking, I think that Hivemind is a very solid offensive team, both for Crucible, for Alliance War. Void Knight is a very strong character in the arena meta that a lot of people still use today in offense, and there's a good chance that he might, remain that way because he's got the speed advantage on his passive for a lot of reasons. And this team is actually pretty solid. I do like that for this team and another team that hasn't been mentioned yet have actually been very good as far as raid teams go. They kind of set a more of a gold standard, I would say, as far as raid teams, and that that they're better outside of raids. Some of the teams in the past had been pretty awful, but this team is not. And I think that it's really, really important. And this is actually a team that I have almost in full, except for Void Knight, on my boosted account. So a lot of the main priorities are actually teams in this list for even early accounts and mid-game accounts that are going to need to do these. So Hivemind, super important. Make sure you build them at the number 3 slot. And coming in at number 2, now this is going to be a little bit of a big one, but I'm going to be bringing this down to a handful of characters, is Sinister VI. Now, I kind of wanted to put them in number 1 because everybody knows that I love Sinister VI. They are insane. This is the absolute gold standard for reworks. I had so much fun, and I think that this was the best patch that Marvel Strike Force has had in the last 2 years, easily. A lot of great characters in here, a lot of great reworks with with Mysterio and with Vulture, and the way that the Sinister 6 tag works with the Superior 6 tag. So that's why I'm not using just one of them. I'm using the Sinister 6 more broadly. However, we can basically cut out like these characters here. You don't really need Electro. It's just that I already had her pre-built, and that's why she's there. But Rhino, Green Goblin, Shocker, you don't really need. And it's really just kind of these 8. It's like the Superior 6-5 and actually 7. Sorry, Swarm was in there. My bad. I know people. We're not talking about Swarm. 7. So the Superior 6-5 plus Vulture and Mysterio, who serve different purposes depending on what you're trying to do. And so I honestly believe that the 7 of them are all worth building. But they're insane. Wherever you use them, there's lots of different places. Hell, you could actually raid with them. I'm not even joking. Like, you could probably raid up until Incursion 1, maybe even early Incursion 2 with this team in tech, because the majority of them are in fact tech. Spider Slayer, Doc Ock, Green Goblin Classic, Mysterio, and Vulture. They're all easily available now as well. A lot of them are in Orbed stores, Kraven's in the Raid store, Spider Slayer's in the Blitz store. And now that the trials are every 2 weeks and essentially farmable, Green Goblin Classic is always going to be available. So just an insane team, very new player friendly, and actually in my opinion, one of the best teams in the game right now. They're incredibly strong in Cosmic Crucible. I'm not a huge fan of Alliance War, but I'm pretty sure they're good there too. And like I said, you can actually use them in raids if you don't have Pegasus, or if they're somehow bigger than your Pegasus team. Like they're just a Swiss Army knife. And the next team above this is an even bigger Swiss Army knife that we need to talk about. And coming in at number 1, if you hadn't known this, well, you do now. It is the Extreme X-Men, and holy crap, the best team in the game, hands down. Mainly because of, well, it's just really all of them, but hey, such an insane team. So as soon as I was able to get these characters on my boosted account, I rocketed, honestly, because you can use them in so many places early on, but even late game. They're just such an incredible team, honestly, as a full, a full unit. In Dark Dimension especially, they're insane. I know it's a lot of mutant gear, but if you take them into any global section, you'll just absolutely kill it. Any Scourge event, actually a lot of the Scourge events, you can actually use them. There is space for them because they cover mutant, they cover hero, they cover global, they cover all sorts of different traits where you can use them in almost, I'm not going to say every event, but a lot of them. And so not only are they insane as a team, their synergy together, that is a team thing. It's because it's late at night. They are that good that you need to invest in them ASAP. This is actually my number 1 team on my boosted account, and it's probably the one team that probably has the highest power on this team right here. I do have that level 100 Gambit 3 Diamonds, who I will take to Gear Tier 19, and it's even more amazing that they kind of reworked him from Unlimited X-Men into Extreme X-Men. So another great reason there. This is just stellar, super stellar, and this rounds off the list. Let me know in the comments down below if you think I missed anyone. I know a lot of people are going to probably say Cabal because I didn't mention Cabal, and a lot of that was just because I felt there was a lot of reasons why I needed to include these teams on this list and the purposes that they served for the wider game. Now, depending on where you are in your roster, some of these are going to be more useful than others, but I'm going to tell you right now that your roster is going to include all 10 of these. Some people might debate me on Eternals, but other than that, you're going to have all of these teams, and they're going to be really, really good for you. So that's the end of this video, everyone. Take care, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in the next one.